The speaker for this session is Honorable Union Minister Mr. Praful Patel. He is a Cabinet Minister for Heavy Industries and Public Enterprise in the Government of India. Before moving to the Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises, Mr. Patel was Minister of State for Civil Aviation from May 2004 up to January 2009. I request him to please come up on the stage. The moderator for the session is Mr. Dilip Satpathy, Resident Editor, Business Standard. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a huge round of applause for them?
Before moving into his current portfolio, he was Minister for Civil Aviation, where he had introduced many reforms between 2004 and 2011. But as Minister for Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises, he has the onerous task to achieve the national manufacturing policy objectives, that is to raise the contribution of manufacturing sector to the GDP from the current level of 15% to 25% by 2020 and also create about 100 million jobs. But the road is fraught with many impediments due to many procedural, legal and environmental factors, along with problems relating to land acquisition. We are witnessing inordinate delay in setting up mega projects in India. In total, 319 projects worth over 15 lakh crore are stuck, and as identified by the Prime Minister Project Monitoring Group, and the list is expanding. In Orissa, we have seen, after a long 7 years wait, ArcelorMittal walked out of its 12 million ton plant in Keonjhar district. So also South Korean steel giant POSCO, which scrapped its plan to set up a 6 million ton steel plant in Karnataka. And the reasons for both these projects being cancelled are same. The companies have complained about delay in land acquisition, their lack of clarity in giving mining linkages, and also they have cited weak market conditions. So in this context, I would request the Honorable Minister to dwell upon the inordinate delay in grounding of mega projects in the country and the roadmap to unblock the bottlenecks.
It's very important for a country like India to have major projects moving on time. In fact, if you see the landscape of India, if you see your own state, if you didn't have Rourkela, or you didn't have in the region Bokaro, or you didn't have Bhilai, or you didn't have Durgapur, all these major projects, I think the landscape of this part of India would have been very, very different. And probably, while you talk of underdevelopment in this part of the country, I think it would have been a disaster had some of these projects not come up then. And I think large part of India has, in the far parts of India, have developed, many states have developed on the back of major projects which have come up over the years. But suddenly in the last, I think the 90s saw a period of slowing down, 80s in fact, 80s and 90s saw a period of slowing down of major projects coming up in the country. I'm not talking of only infrastructure projects, but also industrial projects. But in the last 10, 12 years, again, we saw a renewed push where manufacturing was again taking center stage again in our country, and many new projects, especially in the core sectors of power, of steel, cement, and so on, they again started, becoming, more relevant in our context of industrialization. And I think a lot of new entrepreneurs, the established industrialists, all decided that we need to again give a boost back to manufacturing. But unfortunately, I think we have, while we made some initial progress, I think we've been bogged down for the last almost 5 to 7 years to see that major projects do take off. And I think that is going to be a very serious issue. And I must acknowledge that we in government have not done enough to be able to clear the air of suspicion or the uncertainty or the many issues which could have been resolved very easily, we have not been able to be resolved. So I think these are issues and these are challenges, and I think India has the ability to overcome these challenges. When we talk always in the context of China, India, China, India, China, I appreciate what MJ just said, that you can't compare India with China, especially on the core issue of democracy. And any democracy will have its own challenges. China can build a high-speed rail corridor over all of Tibet into certain parts of almost touching the Indian border. But that can be done in China overnight. But, I just give you one example, and it's something which I felt very sad while being as a member of the government. Just about a few weeks back, there was a meeting in Delhi where we have a new committee called the Cabinet Committee on Investment. And Sam, you please note this so that you can give it as a referral point to whoever you are close to. The point is that coal production is something which everybody is being, it's in the news for the right and the wrong reasons. Now, I'm not talking of the mine allocation. I'm talking of purely Coal India as a company which is supposed to give us the coal to produce power, to produce steel, cement, whatever. Coal India says that my production is not able to be ramped up for many reasons, and one of the primary reasons they said is the evacuation of coal from the mines. And if evacuation is difficult, they just don't have the ability to produce more. Now, it's not something which requires too much of rocket science. So I asked a question in that meeting. I said, what does it take for you to evacuate the coal and make life easier? The answer given was that we need about 1,000 kilometers of rail lines, which will help us, and it's not one rail line, there'll be 3-4 lines, 200 kilometers, 100 kilometers or whatnot, and to be able to make sure that that coal either reaches the port or it reaches the main trunk lines from where it can move further easily. Now, this issue of 1,000 kilometers of rail line, first the answer which was given was, the railways doesn't have money. How much does 1,000 kilometers of rail line cost? By any thumb rule, it could not cost more than 3,000 to 4,000 crores. 5,000 crores, assuming there was some difficult terrain to negotiate. Now, 5,000 crores, first is the money. Now, I don't think sitting in a cabinet or in the government of India, we should be thinking that what is 5,000 crores if that actually increases coal production by 30, 40, 50% in a time frame. The second issue was, how do we get the clearances to build this line? So what are the clearances required? First was land. The second was environmental clearances. Now, if we have to do this, and it is a must, and it will happen eventually. It's not to say that it will not happen. If it was something which is a go or a no-go, I can understand. But if it is neither a go, neither a no-go, it has to happen, then why cannot everybody just apply their mind, sit together, and I can assure you that if given the right environment and the right facilitation, anybody in the government could put a rail line of 1,000 kilometers through within 365 days. It doesn't require any rocket science. You appoint 10 world-class contractors, 100 kilometer stretches, and I think you can build that railway line network within a year or a year and a half at the most. But in that meeting, when we sat, we discovered to our horror that with the Prime Minister, we were 12 ministers sitting and 12 secretaries to the Government of India sitting. And everything was getting stuck on one issue of environment. We did not find 2 people in attendance there who were only needed, besides all of us, we could have been absent, but only those 2 people were needed to solve India's problems. One was the Minister for Environment and one was the Secretary to the Environment Ministry. So if 12 of us, including the Prime Minister, have the time to attend a meeting and to offer whatever little advice, whatever it may be, if at all we can, there was nobody to take a decision. If this is the way we are going to take projects forward, and I am also telling you one thing very candidly, in spite of all that we hear every day of 2G or the coal issues, Maybe there are some wrongdoings. I am not trying to defend if somebody has made money and he should be caught and hanged. That's not the issue. But the real issue was, Sam, you are one of the, not one, you are the architect of India's telecom revolution. 2G, at what price to, give the spectrum to anybody? Should it be the concern of anybody but the government? It's exactly then by drawing a leaf from then Aam Aadmi Party. If Arvind Kejriwal decides or his party decides, I think he only decides, I don't think there's a party, but that's my view. But 700 liters of water shall be available to a family, or electricity will be available at X price. If he can decide, why can't the government of India decide at what price the 2G spectrum shall be sold? Why should it be the concern of anybody else? And if at all there is a wrongdoing in that, it's a policy statement. I don't think anybody from where the CAGs of the world and everybody in the world landed up and views on certain things, including referendums which have taken place in this state. But that is my personal view, because I do not want to comment on something which the court has pronounced. But at the same time, I feel very strongly that in a country like India, and especially what the Aam Aadmi Party is now propagating, to have a referendum on every mohalla for everything which is going to happen in the country, I think it is time that we all understood the true meaning of democracy, as MJ was trying to explain. That if India is to move forward and to go further and faster, while we have democratic systems, we also need to make sure that our democratic systems do not ensure that things get bogged down in innumerable debate and time-consuming and very expensive debate. Because at the end of the day, if you are to change the landscape of this country, you need major projects to move on in time. We had the quadrangular highway project which took off in the previous government. And we have only just tried to two-lane to four-laning of roads. Is this the solution? That's just a natural progression. Cars are increasing. I oversee the auto industry, so I know that this year we are producing 3.5 million cars, 14 million two-wheelers, and 1 million heavy commercial vehicles. In 2025, MJ, we will be making 10 million cars, 30 million two-wheelers, and we will be having more than 3 million heavy commercial vehicles. If all these are going to hit the road, where are the roads? If you're just going to make 2-lane to 4-lane, and you feel that, oh, very happy that we've done some great, remarkable job. Yes, of course, from 2-lane to 4-lane, it looks better, certainly. But is that enough? Is that the way we are going to have major investments coming in the country? Look at the number of ports we have created. Look at the number of, even while we talk of airports, while I was in civil aviation, well, I can certainly take a little pat on the back for transforming the aviation infrastructure of the country in a time-bound manner. But I still feel that what we've done is only upgraded what is existing. We have to create brand new infrastructure if we are really supposed to expand and grow and to make sure. Now look at a state like Orissa. You have one airport operational in Bhubaneswar. If in the entire state of Orissa, which is few hundred kilometers one into the other, if you have one airport and you feel very happy that you've got great connectivity to and from Bhubaneswar, I think that is not doing justice to the infrastructure creation. Or you don't have any major highway projects in the state. You have a port here or a port there. You maybe have Paradeep. You may feel very happy that you have Paradeep, but it could have 5 Paradeeps in a state like Orissa. So we need to really look at major investments in infrastructure. We need to build major projects in our country in a time-bound manner. And all this creates employment. All this creates a new, I would say, opens up the interiors of the country for industrialization. And people moving to cities, and all this is only happening because people do not have any opportunities in their own areas. And that's bound to happen. And we are supposed to create a completely new landscape, and which we have the resources. It's not that we really need to develop new resources, or we are going to, set up a steel factory here and import the iron ore from some other country. We have the iron ore, we export it somewhere else. We have the coal, we import from somewhere else. How does this mismatch work for all time to come? And all this is required, and exactly what I'm drawing a leaf because I only heard MJ speaking before me. But I can draw a leaf that this restlessness in society, restlessness in India, is because you have a large, young, aspirational society. We have, 25 years and below. I'm not even going to 35, those demographics which everybody recites. 25 years and below is almost 45-50% of India's population. And out of that, you have at least 20-25 crore people who are in the workforce waiting to join. You go to any village. Jay is my colleague in Parliament. He goes to his constituency. I'm sure he encounters 100 people in the morning. 99 are only asking for a job. The 100th person has come for personal work. Gone are the days, Shri, where people used to come for village community hall or a road to the village, because certain basic things have been addressed over the years. Now the real challenge before all of us is to create the jobs, to be able to create the employment so that this entire workforce is gainfully employed. And if you don't have people who have studied, because now basic education is available, you have people going to schools, colleges, getting vocational training all across the country. And if they're not going to get a job, it's going to be an empty mind with a devil's workshop. And that's exactly what we need to avoid. And that is exactly why mega projects in our country must be built in a time-bound manner. And that is exactly what I think all of us in government, all of us in society, all of us in judiciary, the media, the civil society, all will have to work in hand. You just can't be obstructionist on certain things. The larger picture will have to be understood if India is to move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Before I actually request the audience to ask questions, I want to take the privilege to ask you the first question that recently there was a change at the helm in the Ministry of Forest and Environment. And after Moily has taken over as he is in fact in charge of this ministry now. So a lot of projects have been cleared. And earlier, these projects were delayed and not getting the approval of MOEF on the plea of violations and lack of compliance, and rules and the laws being the same. How these projects have been cleared now, and how actually things work in a department in government, so that one ministry is there, things are stalled, and another minister takes over, things are moving faster.
It's not about a minister being one or the other. The question is, as I said, the entire system of governance, we ultimately end up achieving our desired result, but at what cost? If certain thing has to be cleared today, and if it is to be cleared the same way 5 years later, that 5-year cost to the nation, to opportunities lost, to so many other ramifications because of that delay, I think is something which we have to understand in government. And I think people are not forgiving. You see, that is why it's an important thing where the entire system has to be calibrated. And I mean a little bit beyond the government system alone, because you see, you have the judiciary, you have the other, even the media, the civil society groups. Everybody will have to understand certain ramifications to certain projects. Because if a project is suddenly stuck up in the court or some other reason, or due to some pressure groups, I think those things also, and I think in this state you have experienced this a lot. And I therefore do not want to say whether what is right or wrong, but I can certainly say that opportunities lost do not come by so easily again. So in this state, especially on major projects and due to various concerns, including the ones you've mentioned, I think many opportunities have been lost.
Is it that some of the mega projects in Odisha were selectively discriminated, and your former environment ministers like Jayanti Natarajan or Jairam Ramesh, they did not support the clearances because of their so-called overactivism? Just to project this image of Rahul Gandhi as a pro-tribal leader, they had to stop these projects, whereas they cleared the clearances of the Indra Sagar Dam and some Polavaram Dam, which is also killing the tribal population of Odisha?
Well, I'll not talk about any individuals, but I will certainly acknowledge that there have been many activists or activism in the government, and therefore we have many self-inflicted goals also which we have scored. So therefore I do not wish to say beyond the fact that yes, I do acknowledge to some extent. I'm not saying it is deliberate. I will not say it is something by design. That I certainly don't get that impression.
Thank you so much for your thought-provoking views and deliberation. Now, I would request Mrs. Jaggi Mangat Panda to please present the OTV Foresight Memento to Mr. Praful Patel.
A few have captured the media because of their misdeeds. जो अच्छा काम करता है वो नहीं इतना दिखता है, जो गड़बड़ करते हैं वो एकदम सामने आता है.